Paul Grist, Chris Allen, and Mark Deering dive into the criminal underworld of Washington, D.C. as Commissioner Luke Cage and his team set their sights on the mysterious new vigilante, the Saint, who has been delivering Mephisto's justice to the criminals of the city, garnering the attention of Nighthawk, Turk Barrett, and many more. Paul Grist follows Jason Aaron's lead here and leans heavily into the DC pastiche as we get what is essentially a Gotham Central book set in the Marvel Universe, complete with the do-good commissioner as well as a hawk signal on the rooftop of the police department. I thoroughly enjoyed all of the clever little jokes that were spread out through this book, with the idea of it being a Batman book and even right down to the opening pages claiming that it's a Nighthawk book featuring Luke Cage, yet the book is all about Luke Cage, with Nighthawk barely even appearing. Obviously a play on how oftentimes DC will claim a book is about Batman or have him on the cover or really play up his importance to the role, or say the Joker as well, but it's something completely different, much like how the current Joker series is all about Jim Gordon. The overall plot as well is pretty good, but it leaves a little bit to be desired, especially since this is meant to be the first days of the Saint, the Daredevil stand-in in the story. Yet by the end of the issue, he's gone and it's all kind of wrapped up really quickly. Matt Murdock's reasoning for donning the costume was a little weak in my opinion, and the payoff maybe would have been a little bit better had he actually lived and decided instead of becoming something for Mephisto, he'll become something else. And that could lead back to like a classic Daredevil that we all know and love. Outside of that, I enjoyed Luke navigating a world steeped in religion, and a religion he doesn't believe or care about thanks to his family's past, involvement in cults and stuff like that, and he has to do all this while remaining a good, honest cop. The only good, honest cop on the force, which with themes of the devil and temptation is a pretty fun way to take the character. Chris Allen and Mark Deering both stand in on art duties through the book and did a pretty good job of balancing out each other's work. There was no large tonal or style shifts between the work on the pages they each did, and it all fit together quite nicely. The Saint's costume is pretty great, but I mean, it's really just a Daredevil costume without the horns and the 2Ds. That's all that's missing really from that costume. I like their version of the Nighthawk costume though, since it invoked Brian Bollard or Todd McFarlane's take on Batman with the giant shoulder pieces and the cape and long flowing cape. I thought it was quite great. Heroes Reborn, American Knights issue 1 was a rather okay entry into the Heroes Reborn universe, and while the world building that has been fantastic over all of these issues was there, I felt the plot was a little bit thin in places and felt rushed the whole way through. Still, I enjoyed the reimagining of Luke Cage as a police commissioner and the battles he faces as a good cop in a really terrible alternate reality. I'm going to give this issue a 7 out of 10. Heroes Reborn, American Knights issue 1 heads to Washington DC, where a mugger waits in hiding for a couple to come down the road. But it's too late as he's attacked by a vigilante known as the Saint. Elsewhere, Commissioner Luke Cage sits waiting in a jail cell, knowing that he'd swear he'd never get locked up again, yet here he finds himself. The cell is opened and the mugger from before is tossed in, telling the police they can't just throw him in there. The Commissioner meets with the boy, thinking that they should have a chat. The man recognizes Cage, who confirms who he is and that he's gotten picked up for a crime he never committed. Richie calls for the cops to come back since Cage can't do this, but Luke says that he made his life's purpose to clean up the law, so no one walking the streets has anything to fear, and he is the most honest, trusted police commissioner that has ever held that rank. He corners Richie against the bars, knowing that the man is a persistent offender with a long string of convictions, so if he wants to go shooting off his mouth about right and wrong, who does he think they will believe? Later on, Luke calls in Nighthawk with the Hawk signal, telling the arriving hero Richie cracked and gave up Turk Barrett's plans. Luke says that he's meeting with Gunter tonight, giving Nighthawk the location of the gun-running meeting before telling Nighthawk he knows there is more to this since he didn't need the Commissioner's help to get info on Richie, but Nighthawk says it does look good to get out from behind a desk every now and then, and he is making enemies, so Nighthawk wants him to remember he's not bulletproof. As the hero leaves, Luke finds a package sitting for him at the edge of the building, knowing this is the first time in their long relationship that Nighthawk has ever left him a present. The next morning, the news talks about the masked vigilante seen around the city, dubbing him the Saint after the S on his chest, and while the public likes what he does, the police are asking no one to copy his actions. In Mama Wong's Dragon Chili restaurant, Turk and his family discuss what they are going to do about this Saint character, but Turk tells them not to worry since the police are being thrown at him, so it's not their problem, and all they have to do is let those tax dollars work for them, even though they don't pay taxes. Soon Grotto comes by telling Turk that Richie got picked up by Luke Cage. Luke excuses himself from the table since he's got to go deal with some local difficulty, leaving the restaurant as he calls the officer he has on his payroll, telling them they want Luke hurt. Officer Sanders says that he can do that, and he's going to do this one for free. Later on, detectives Misty Knight and Jessica Jones meet with Luke at a crime scene, wanting to know what brings the commissioner out onto the mean streets. Luke wanted to see where the detectives were with the vigilantes since he's making it look like they are not up for the job. Misty knows all about his pal Nighthawk, but Luke says that he's not a vigilante, he's basically the badge personified. Soon Luke recognizes one of the Saint's victims as Tombstone, an enforcer for Turk Barrett, knowing that he could easily have taken down 6 officers before being brought down, so the Saint character must be some hitter. Luke knows they need to get the Saint since he's getting lots of heat from above about it, but Jessica thinks the man is doing this city a favor, and one less thug is good. Luke knows they can deal with thugs, but someone who can take down Tombstone is a bigger problem for them. Later on, Luke and the detectives pay a visit to the Church of Mephisto, thanks to Tombstone having a lapel badge from the church. They meet with cleric Matthew Murdoch, who notes he doesn't think he's seen Luke at any of their celebrations. Luke says he's not really a believer in Mephisto, but Matthew knows that doesn't mean Mephisto doesn't believe in him. Matt thinks that Mephisto will be working through Luke despite his reservations, as Luke asks if he can help them with their investigation, showing him a picture of Lonnie Lincoln, whom Matt knows well, making him wonder what this is about. The detectives say that Lonnie, aka Tombstone, is a known criminal and he and his men were attacked by the Saint, with the connection being that all the criminals attacked were devotees of Mephisto. Matt says that 70% of the country is devotees of Mephisto, and he doesn't judge. The detectives thank Matt for his time and they'll be in touch, knowing that they should be able to talk to Lincoln at the hospital that afternoon. Luke heads off to his TV appointment, talking with Betsy Brandt on her talk show about the Saint. Lieutenant Sanders says that they are doing everything in their power and the people have nothing to fear, something Luke backs up, knowing that policing needs to be left to the professionals. After the interview, Betsy thanks them all as Luke meets with Sanders, knowing it's good to see they agree on some points of law enforcement. Sanders knows that they always haven't agreed on the method, but he hopes he's clear on where they stand. Luke notices something on his uniform, but the man thinks it's just his badge, but Luke knows that it's a Mephisto flame above the badge, saying he doesn't like it and it doesn't belong on the uniform. Sanders says he thought they were free to express their faith, but Luke doesn't want it being on the uniform, demanding it be taken off, hoping he's made himself clear on where they stand. Later on, Misty and Jessica head over to the hospital to see Lincoln, finding cleric Matt waiting for them. The detectives are surprised to see him, but the man says that Mephisto's work keeps him busy at the hospital. He takes his leave as the detectives head into Lincoln's room, only to find the man has been killed. The officer outside says the only person inside there was the priest, so Misty and Jessica take off after Matthew, calling in an APB on the priest, telling officers to approach him with caution since he might be the vigilante the Saint. That night, Luke gets a call from Jessica telling them that they've cornered Murdoch in the house of Mephisto, but things turn bad and escalated as SWAT, EMTs and the press have all gathered outside the church. Jessica says that Misty's bionic arm was busted up by Murdoch and Sanders and his men are there, and Luke races to the scene, wanting her to make sure that Sanders doesn't do anything. Elsewhere, Turk meets with Gunter in a car park, finding the man has the guns he wants, so they go ahead with the trade. But Gunter betrays Turk, wanting all of what Turk has, but Turk knew he would do that, which is why he arranged some backup. Nighthawk attacks Gunter, taking him and his men down as Luke arrives at the church, telling Sanders his situation isn't under control, but Sanders says an officer was assaulted, so how appropriate does he want them to be? Luke tells him that he's got all this SWAT firepower for one man with a baseball bat, and if he's looking at making a martyr out of Murdoch, he's going to do it. Luke says that his men will stand down as he heads into the church alone to talk, something Sanders hoped would happen. Nighthawk meanwhile is overcome by the men, but he manages to beat them all down, with many deciding to run away from the hero. Luke heads into the dark church, calling for Matt to come and talk with him since they want just to help him. Luke knows that he doesn't belong in a place like this, and he doesn't do religion since his parents brought him up in a cult called the Christ Church of Christianity, knowing that it was weirder than the Mephisto Church, and he walked out of there when he was 15, but he knows those things never really leave you. The Saint suddenly attacks Luke with a baseball bat, so Luke defends himself with a collection tray, smashing the vigilante down, saying that he just wants to talk to him. The Saint says not to be called that name since it's not his name, making Luke wonder what the S stands for then. The man says it's not an S, it's a serpent, the form Mephisto took to experience the life of a lowly creature on Earth. Matt removes his mask, not wanting to be called Saint, but Matthew. Luke reassures him it's okay, but the man knows it's not since he spends his days listening to people telling him of all the bad things they do, and these people think that they are just cleaning their slates. So all they do is go out and do it all again. So he had to put a stop to them and show them a better way. Luke thinks that he understands as Matt says that Mephisto created the world and them in his own image, and they are a pale reflection of him. But yet the people who worship him are full of violence and hatred and bitterness. So he wonders if they are reflections, then what does Mephisto truly look like? Matt puts his arm around the man, saying that he doesn't really know, as elsewhere, Nighthawk catches up to Turk, who gives up so he can show the hero the news coverage of Luke Cage taking down the Saint, wondering who's looking out for Luke Cage. At the church, Sanders' men see Luke coming out with Matt, telling his men that if they have the shot, they are to take it, telling the outraged Misty and Jessica that Matt is a threat and that he has no choice. Jessica pulls her gun on the lieutenant and gives him an order to stand down, but Sanders orders his men to fire, shooting at Luke and Matt. Luke dives on the shot-up Matt, protecting him but confused as to why the gunfire didn't hit him. Nighthawk luckily arrives in time, saving the two men and telling Luke that he didn't understand the word careful. In the aftermath, Luke carries Matt's dead body to Sanders, confronting the man and punching him in the face, saying that he's fired. Later on that night, Luke apologizes to Nighthawk for the hero losing Turk, but he knows that he'll get him tomorrow, asking how Cage is feeling. Cage says that he's a bit sore, thanking the hero for the body armor he left him, since while it's not bulletproof skin, it's close enough. He tries to give the suit back to Nighthawk, but the hero refuses, as he says that it was a prototype and he didn't know if it would work. He tells Luke to keep it as he leaves, knowing the commissioner is going to need it.